Thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow members of this committee. I'm reading in testimony from Patrice Johnson of PIME, Pure Integrity Michigan Elections, and she urges a rejection of this rule set, 2025-14. Secretary Benson has forgotten a fundamental principle of constitutional government. She administers law, she doesn't make law. These rules represent a clear violation of the separation of powers that protect our constitutional republic. Rule 168.48 mandates deletion of electronic poll book data after just 7 days. Federal law under 52 U.S.C. 20701 requires 22-month retention of all election records. This rule set isn't a gray area. It's a direct, willful violation that subjects Michigan clerks and taxpayers to criminal penalties under 52 U.S.C. 20702 and loss of federal HAVA funding, or Help America Vote Act funding. The timing is telling. Electronic keystroke records enabled Attorney General Nessel's prosecution of election fraud in St. Clair Shores. Rule 168.48 would eliminate exactly this type of evidence that catches corrupt officials manipulating voting transactions. Why would we destroy the very evidence that protects election integrity? Why would the state government seek to remove clerks' and citizens' ability to access this vital information that the state will have and hide from others' eyes by classifying it as metadata, unavailable for FOIA or clerk access? Additionally, these rules strip local clerks of essential tools needed to perform their statutory duties. Without electronic records, clerks cannot conduct post-election audits, investigate discrepancies, or maintain voter rolls as required by federal National Voter Registration Act law. We're forcing professional election administrators to become archaeologists, piecing together fragments of paper instead of using complete digital records. The unauthorized FOIA exemptions transform what are now affordable electronic records requests into expensive paper-based obstacles costing thousands of dollars. This creates economic barriers similar to the poll taxes outlawed by the Voting Rights Act. Citizens who could analyze voting data for minimal cost will now face discriminatory access barriers that violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Secretary Benson lacks authority under MCL 168.31 to create FOIA exemptions or change record retention standards. The Michigan Supreme Court in Clonlara established that agencies cannot exceed their statutory delegation. These aren't procedural clarifications, they're substantive, significant legal changes requiring legislative approval, not bureaucratic manufacturing from thin air. The July 15 public hearing had 0 attendees. The agency report required under MCL 24.245 is missing. The regulatory impact statement lacks required empirical justification. This violates the federal and state Administrative Procedure Act's requirements for meaningful public participation and evidence-based rulemaking. The cost excuse is also absurd. Electronic storage on thumb drives costs $5 to $15 and takes up the space of a thumb. Paper storage requires warehouses. This isn't about saving money, it's about eliminating evidence and preventing clerk and citizen access to publicly available information. It's about avoiding accountability. We face a constitutional crisis when administrative officials usurp legislative power. Under Michigan's Constitution Article 3, Section 2, the legislature makes law and the executive administers it. These rules violate that fundamental separation of powers. JCAR exists precisely to prevent this type of overreach. We have both, she says you have both the authority and duty under MCL 24.245A to reject rules that exceed statutory authority, violate federal law, and lack adequate public process. Michigan has documented over 100,000 excess ballots in recent elections and 800,000 ineligible voter registrations. We need more transparency and accountability, not less. These rules systematically eliminate fraud detection capabilities, destroy critical evidence, and create discriminatory barriers to public oversight. JCAR members, Michigan's election integrity and constitutional governance depend on your rejection of Rule Set 2025-14. The rule of law hangs in the balance. She says, I urge you to uphold your constitutional duty and reject these unauthorized rules. Thank you.